This is CBC Winnipeg News.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. Some Winnipeggers are feeling confused over the way the province is handling consultations around a proposed supervised consumption site. They say it's only adding to the frustration. CBC's Josh Crabb reports.
Christine Kerouac is an artist who lives and works in North Point Douglas. She's also a community activist. Kerouac doesn't want the area to become home to Manitoba's first supervised consumption site.
No, it's not like other neighborhoods or other places. You're putting in a safe consumption site in an area that has got a baseline that's already problematic. So we have high crime here already.
An application has been submitted to Health Canada to put the site here, in this building at 200 Disraeli Freeway in South Point Douglas, near a school and daycare. Kerouac feels the province didn't do enough consultations with area residents before putting in the proposal. Her main concern is around the role of police if or when the site opens.
We are a compassionate community. I've had I've helped people personally just because I'm that type of person. But that doesn't mean that you have to then not talk about the impact of that negatively on the community.
But who the province must consult is a key question. Manitoba's Minister in charge of addictions, Bernadette Smith, previously said federal regulations required consultations in a specific radius around the proposed site, 500 meters to be exact. But Health Canada says there's no such rule, only the stipulation that the province must consult. Smith says they're going above and beyond that.
We're not set on a site. We want to hear feedback from the community. And is this the right, location? That's why we're doing these consultations, to hear from the community.
But some question that, even though it's located right next door. Stephanie Kassar with Our Lady of Lourdes Slovenian Catholic Church says if a notification for consultations was sent by the province, they didn't receive it.
I wasn't saying that the site shouldn't take place there, but we just thought that we should have some say and some input into the whole process.
More public consultations are scheduled in the coming weeks. Still, Kerouac remains disappointed with the process.
It's not sufficient. You need to really understand the impact to the entire community.
She attended a meeting last week and was let in even though she wasn't invited. Kerouac plans to attend more meetings where she hopes to hear more from the province about her concerns around crime. Josh Crabb, CBC News, Winnipeg.
A battle for the puck during a U15 hockey game quickly turned into a medical emergency. It was a terrifying incident that's left a 14-year-old hockey player sidelined for now, but grateful. The CBC's Alana Cole has the story.
When the AAA U15 Winnipeg Wild Red took to the ice for practice Thursday, they were missing a teammate.
It wasn't until he got closer to the bench that you kind of start grasping the severity of the situation.
The team's coach, Brett Werr, is talking about 14-year-old Mark Monday. During a game last Sunday, Mark and another player slid into the boards. Mark went head first, but quickly focused on his wrist.
And then I saw there was lots of blood. Saw my wrist, saw where it was cut, and I knew that place being cut is very serious, so I got scared.
His mom, Darcy, says a skate cut an artery. While the team's trainer tried to slow the bleeding, others from the stands, including a nurse, doctor, and fire paramedic, rushed to help.
We held my arm up with lots of towels. We kind of contained the bleeding. I tried my best not to pass out because I lost a lot of blood. And then the paramedics got there, and then I eventually got in the ambulance and then was on my way to the hospital.
Mark underwent a 5.5-hour surgery Monday. Doctors tell his family he's expected to make a full recovery. His mom, grateful.
It's really important to have that trainer there. Callie was amazing. She was really calm, kept everyone stable, and Mark, so we were really grateful for that. And just all the help and support we've gotten from family, friends, the team. We had an amazing team, and the doctors and nurses and paramedics. They were amazing.
Mark isn't back on the ice yet, but got to visit with the team.
Seeing his big smile today definitely uplifted me, and I know uplifted our other coaches and our players.
His coach says it was an accident and could happen in any game. Mark says he'll wear cut-resistant wristbands from now on as a layer of protection. About half his team also got some this week. Alana Cole, CBC News, Winnipeg.
The RCMP is looking within to help temporarily fill staffing shortages across the province. The Mounties are struggling with vacancies in both Saskatchewan and here in Manitoba. As CBC's Josh Crabb reports, they're trying to recruit from other parts of the country.
The southern Manitoba city of Portage-La Prairie and surrounding area is policed by the RCMP. Vacancies are creating challenges for the police force here and elsewhere in the province, and that has Helena Cott worried.
That's a concern, that there might not be an officer available if you need one.
Portage-La Prairie has a contract with the Mounties for 27 officers, but the city's mayor, Sherilyn Knox, says on average there are only 22 working.
There's been a shortage for quite some time. We've really seen that happen, especially since the pandemic, that there's been a change.
The RCMP says it has a province-wide vacancy rate of 15%. The Mounties are looking for officers from other parts of the country to come work not only here in places like Portage, but right across Manitoba and Saskatchewan too. The commanding officer of the Manitoba RCMP says a memo went out last week looking for temporary reinforcements. Assistant Commissioner Scott McMurchie says the Mounties have already been trying to fill vacancies internally with officers from units and detachments with more resources.
The purpose of this additional ask from outside of the division is basically just to augment what we're already doing.
McMurchie says a preferred posting agreement allowing cadets to pick the provinces where they want to work has had an impact on staffing in smaller divisions like Saskatchewan and Manitoba. Manitoba Justice Minister Matt Wiebe wants to see the federal government do more.
Within remote and northern communities especially, we're seeing a real lack of public safety because of the vacancy rate created by Ottawa's lack of investment. So we're really asking them to step up to ensure that we have the number of officers here.
Portage's mayor sees the RCMP's efforts to recruit from within as a positive step, one she hopes will help with the vacancies in her city. Josh Crabb, CBC News, Portage-La Prairie.
Premier Wab Kinew says the province is preparing two budgets in response to looming threats from the United States to put 25% tariffs on Canadian goods. Kinew was speaking to reporters earlier today about the potential impact on the province's economy.
We got a budget with, all systems go, and we're continuing with trade with the U.S., and we're building another contingency where, we have to support businesses and we have to respond to an economic slowdown.
Kinew also says a new tariff information hotline and website will launch on Monday. It's the first recommendation from a council the province has created. It includes 16 representatives from businesses, trade and labor organizations. Winnipeg Mayor Scott Gillingham's inner circle has amended the city's budget for this year. Executive Policy Committee voted this afternoon to add $22 million to the budget this year to demolish the Arlington Bridge and start redesigning a replacement. The bridge has shuttered in 2023 over safety concerns. Jeff Brawadi, City Council's finance chair, says moving faster will save Winnipeg money.
It's going to have to come down. We know that. I've spoken to engineers, sort of on the side, and they've suggested that if we don't do it now, it's going to be more expensive to take it apart later.
Fixing the bridge is expected to cost about $170 million and take 6 years. The amended city budget faces council approval next week. There he is, weather specialist Riley Lachuk in now. And Riley, pretty decent weekend ahead of us in comparison to last weekend.
Yeah, oh yeah. We're looking much better, albeit a little bit breezy tomorrow, Brittany. You have to use your imagination just a little bit on our satellite and radar map tonight. Environment Canada's radar data hasn't been coming in properly through the day today. So through this, there is a little bit of scattered flurry activity really across south and central Manitoba. Expect that to continue into the overnight hours tonight. You can see along the international border, the U.S. radar stations picking some of that up a little bit as it sinks south of the border. So a few clouds out there, certainly. We have seen some sunnier breaks back to the west, actually a mix of sun and clouds even into places like Brandon through the afternoon hours. And look at what that has done to our temperatures. 0 in Swan River this afternoon, as well as in Portage La Prairie. Brandon, Winnipeg, both getting to -2, -5 in Thompson. You can see where this warm pocket of air is. We'll get a little bit colder as we get through the overnight hours. So -8 overnight in Winnipeg. Still a few lingering flurries tonight. Waking up to -12, so our temperature drops into the morning hours. Tomorrow, a lot more seasonal tomorrow. Up to -9 by the afternoon, Brittany, and we're looking at temperatures soaring as we get into early next week. I'll have those details when I come back.
Thanks, Riley.
You're welcome.
North America's longest continuously operating ballet company has a new leader. Coming up, we'll introduce you to the former dancer turned artistic director. Stay with us. The country's oldest ballet company has a new lead at the helm after nearly 3 decades. The Royal Winnipeg Ballet says its international search for a new artistic director spanned 9 months, but now there's a new visionary on board. CBC's Zubina Ahmed brings you more.
The Royal Winnipeg Ballet is the longest operating ballet company in North America. On Friday, the RWB announced Christopher Stowell as its new artistic director. He will take the position from Andre Lewis, who has held the job since 1996 and is now retiring. Lewis says Stowell brings a fresh vision for the future.
I knew the organization would be in capable, talented, and innovative hands.
Originally from Seattle, Stowell has deep roots in ballet. Both his parents are dancers, and he has a long career as a dancer and artistic director. Stowell is excited to be a part of Winnipeg's vibrant art scene.
It's particularly inviting here because I can tell from the pride this city has in its cultural offering is that there's just a lot to experience there.
John Osler chairs the RWB's board. He says they were impressed with the caliber of candidates they met during the search.
We had such wonderful response, not only from Canadians, but from Americans and from Europeans, Australians, and the English.
I feel like this art form still has a lot to say, and I, in particular, feel like the RWB can be a leader in exploration and change and expansion.
Stowell will also oversee the school and says he has a passion for teaching as well as performance. He'll begin his term in June. Zubina Ahmed, CBC News, Winnipeg.
A new survey on Brandon's homelessness says the city has seen a massive increase over the last 3 years. The Brandon Neighbourhood Renewal Corporation led a 24-hour SNAP survey. Its point-in-time homelessness count identified 229 unhoused people downtown, a 77% increase since the last count in 2021. The executive director of Samaritan House Ministries says she sees it firsthand at the city's only overnight shelter. She says it keeps getting busier because things like rent and groceries are getting more expensive.
When you add it all together, people are just scrambling. Just trying to make basic rent is challenging in these times. So yeah, I think that this is just the start. I think that this summer and the fall will show even more.
The authors of the report say the numbers are rising along with mental health and addictions issues, and affordable housing needs to be a government priority. If you've ever needed to buy medicine for a pet, you likely know the cost and difficulty of getting those prescriptions filled. But there are options outside of your neighborhood vet clinic. The Fifth Estate is looking into the issue as part of a joint investigation with Marketplace and Radio Canada. Co-host Stephen D'Souza reports.
Weave, go buddy, go!
Grace Frankel knows these are precious moments with Finnegan. 2 years ago, she almost lost the Australian Shepherd she trains at her home in Manitoba.
He'd have a seizure, and then he'd have another and another.
Good boy.
Her quick thinking helped save his life.
So he probably should have died on that table that day.
As a clinical pharmacist, she knew about a human medication her veterinarian did not.
Because I had those connections that I'm forever grateful for, we were able to save him.
Right now, unlike the US and other countries, Canadians can't easily access more pet medications from a pharmacist. A joint CBC Radio Canada investigation found some veterinary regulators, drug companies, and distributors are shutting out pharmacists.
I really felt I was bullied.
Wendy Choi is one of those pharmacists. For years, she had to get her supply from a veterinarian. She would then sell the drugs online or in her Toronto pharmacy.
I'm here to pick up prescription for Chase.
Sure. Can I have your last name, please?
The pricing was much better.
In the case of a common flea and tick medication, her price was 36% cheaper than a Toronto vet clinic. But in 2017, her business hit a roadblock. A drug company filed a complaint with the Ontario College of Pharmacists. Though it was ultimately dismissed, she felt it was part of an industry effort against her.
They want to keep vet medication only being sold in vet clinics.
Last October, the Competition Bureau of Canada said it was time for pet medicine manufacturers and veterinary distributors to end exclusive deals.
Our recommendation is to actually mandate the supply because we want to ensure that farmers are able to participate in the marketplace.
Okay.
Frankel hopes there is change.
If opening this up and competition drives prices lower, I'm all for that.
The head of the Canadian Veterinary Medical Association says vets are best to dispense because they know animal physiology better. He also says that selling medications is part of vets' overall revenue, so if that's taken away, prices for other services may have to change. Stephen D'Souza, CBC News, Toronto.
Well, it is Friday, friends. We made it through the
Yes.
week. We made it through that deep, bitter cold, and we are on that upswing. So congratulations.
Yeah. I mean, maybe a few more flurries yet to come tonight, Brittany. But overall, the weekend, we are looking at brighter toward the end of the weekend and certainly a lot warmer by the time we hit Sunday, Monday.
But what goes up must go down. So take it in this weekend.
Yeah, take it in this weekend. I'll start with that because I'm going to show you the 10-day temperature trend. And as I always do when I show you this, take this with a grain of salt. Don't bank on these numbers because they could change a lot between now and then, particularly when you get 10 days out, for example. So yes, we are looking at things staying above seasonal for this time of the year, particularly as we start next week. You can see some of these numbers here at or just below the freezing mark. We start to dip a bit by mid next week, still above seasonal for this time of the year. Today's normal high is now -12. So that's come up this week from -13 at the start of the week. But you can see, yes, what must come down as we start February, looking at temperatures. At least at this point, the forecast modeling suggesting that we'll see things sinking as we start February. So we'll keep our eye on that as it inches a little bit closer, but just gives you a look at where we're headed as we head into the next couple of weeks here. Futurecast showing us some of that scattered flurry activity as it makes its way through much of southern and central Manitoba. Really not much in the way of accumulation, but certainly as we get through the night tonight, you could run into a dusting of snow through the overnight period. As we get into Saturday, we start cloudy, but we'll start to get some clearing going as we get early in the day. So even by lunchtime, we are looking at mostly sunny skies. So I'm calling it a sun-cloud mix through the day tomorrow. Still some cloud hanging around through the afternoon hours. But back to the west, boy, oh boy, mainly sunny skies through Brandon through the day tomorrow. But what you will notice as we get through Saturday will be a gusty northwesterly wind, which will kind of hold our temperatures back a little bit. Into Sunday, another system makes its way across the Hudson Bay coast, not really impacting southern Manitoba, but a more substantial system makes its way across northern and central Manitoba as we get into Monday. Most of this missing the Red River Valley, but we could get clipped on the eastern side of the province as we get into Monday around the lunch hour and later into the afternoon hours with that system. In terms of accumulation, really, I think these numbers are a little bit high for southern Manitoba. Really, we're not looking at maybe more than a dusting to a couple of centimeters. But as we get into Sunday, you can see some of these blue colors here, 3 to 5 centimeters by the time we get into the day on Sunday and into Monday morning. Winds stay strong out of the northwest up to 40 through the afternoon hours tomorrow, so we could see some blowing snow through the afternoon. That does bring our temperatures down back to seasonal to start the day tomorrow, up to -9 by the afternoon, Brittany, -5 for Sunday. Then there's those temperatures at the freezing mark to start next week.
Thank you, Riley.
Welcome.
Well, here's a look at the exchange as we head to break. Lights on the exchange is on now until March 21st. Perfect weekend to get outdoors. We have more to come after the break. The White House says the mass arrests and deportations promised by President Donald Trump have begun. Officials say about 160 illegal migrants have already been sent from the States to Guatemala. Richard Madden reports on the roundups and the reaction.
New photos from the White House show long lines of shackled migrants boarding military planes leaving the U.S. in what officials call the largest deportation operation in the country's history.
Deportation's going very well. We're getting the bad, hard criminals out. These are murderers. These are people that have been as bad as you get, as bad as anybody you've seen. We're taking them out first.
The White House says immigration raids began Tuesday at midnight, with agents arresting or detaining nearly 900 people from more than a dozen countries, including Mexico, Colombia, Honduras, and Venezuela. Overnight, surveillance video shows federal agents raiding this seafood shop in Newark, New Jersey. Witnesses say the agents went inside, targeting anyone who looked Hispanic, questioning their immigration status. The city's mayor is furious, calling it warrantless and unconstitutional.
Obviously, some ICE agents raided a business in our city without a warrant. When I got this information, I was appalled, upset, angry that this would happen here in this state, in this country, that this would be allowed.
Federal authorities say their actions are part of a targeted enforcement operation, but swept up in their detentions were U.S. citizens, including a military veteran.
This is going to violate the fundamental constitutional rights of not just immigrants who are caught up in this process, some who have legal status, some who don't, but also everyday American citizens.
In the busy border town of McAllen, Texas, this immigration lawyer says people are worried of racial profiling and getting harassed by agents for constant proof they can be inside the country.
Everybody's scared. I mean, I haven't had this many calls in a long time. They want to know, are we going to be okay? Am I going to be fine? Am I going to get deported? Is my mom going to get deported? Is my dad getting deported? They're concerned that they just don't have any rights anymore.
Federal officials say agents can now launch immigration raids inside schools, churches, and courthouses. The White House says these actions are, quote, sending a strong and clear message to the world that if you illegally enter the U.S., you'll face severe consequences. Richard Madden, CBC News, Washington.
Trump spent the day visiting states recently hit by natural disasters. His first stop was North Carolina, hit by Hurricane Helene last year, where he criticized the Federal Emergency Management Agency.
FEMA has really let us down, let the country down, and I don't know if that's Biden's fault or whose fault it is, but we're going to take over and we're going to do a good job.
Trump says he'll be signing an executive order to overhaul or get rid of FEMA. He says he'd like to see the states take care of the disasters. Later, he flew to LA to be briefed on the wildfires. He's threatening to withhold aid unless California changes the state's approach on water management. Now, the Trump 2.0 administration is reimagining the United States as a protectionist and America First nation. Some Canadian analysts say it's a new and dangerous era in U.S. foreign policy, threatening the interests of allies such as Canada. As the CBC's Karen Pauls found out, many Trump supporters are 100% on board with that.
That's a key right now.
Joe Salmon is in this rural Minnesota store buying a MAGA hat to add to his Donald Trump-inspired collection.
I do have 14 Trump hats. I have 34 Trump T-shirts. Actually wasn't done shopping.
The retiree says he's been struggling under high food and gas prices, so he's all in on Trump's America First vision.
He's going to turn this world around. He's saving the world. He's a gift from God, whether people like it or not.
One of the first things Trump did after he was sworn in, declare a state of emergency on the southern border with Mexico and deploy troops to start mass deportations. That's playing well with Denise Wilberg.
Border was a big one because that's causing so much trouble for us. I mean, the economy, we're paying for a lot of things that we shouldn't be, for having the illegals here, and the safety. I've got kids and grandkids. So that's a scary matter.
Trump has also taken aim at the northern border, threatening steep tariffs.
We're thinking in terms of 25% on Mexico and Canada.
unless he sees stronger measures to stop the flow of unauthorized migrants and illicit drugs into the U.S. In response, Canada has committed $1.3 billion for immigration and border security measures, hoping that will be enough to appease Trump. On the flip side, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and most premiers are also threatening retaliatory tariffs.
The goal will be to get those tariffs off as quickly as possible.
But the impact of tariffs on Canadians and Americans, including higher prices on some goods, is not something retired trucker Wally Mueller is worried about.
Well, gasoline isn't going to be a problem because we're going to drill, baby, drill.
Trump has signed his America First vision into reality with the directive that American foreign policy should serve American interests alone. Wesley Warwick of the Centre for International Governance Innovation in Ottawa says it's a new and dangerous era in U.S. foreign policy.
Trump supporters at least have bought the message that the previous conduct of American foreign policy has been too much about virtues, too little about American self-interest, that it's costing the United States in some way or another, that allies don't really matter. What we're confronting is a kind of new vision of the United States as a selfish superpower.
The way Joe Salmon sees it, the U.S. finally has a strong leader who is willing to do what it takes to make America great again, even if it means taking on his allies.
The Canadians, is we love you guys, but we're not going to be taken advantage of by nobody. America first. You mess with Trump, who's getting the short end of the stick? Not Trump.
A consideration for Team Canada as they try to figure out how to respond. Karen Pauls, CBC News, Lake Park, Minnesota.
The tariff threat has caused a buy-Canadian sentiment that appears to be gaining momentum. Some premiers have been pushing it, even the Prime Minister has encouraged it. But does it or can it have an impact? Rob Warren is an economist and professor at the University of North Dakota and a former Winnipegger and joins me now. Hi, Rob.
Hi, Brittany.
So Trump's continued tariff threats are seemingly triggering this real sense of nationalism here in Canada. So first off, do you think this is something the average consumer even thinks about?
It's sad to say, but they probably don't. Most consumers, when they go out to buy products, what they think about is, what have I purchased in the past? I'm just going to stick with that, because something like 80% of all of our purchase decisions are based on habit or very low involvement thinking about what we're buying.
I would imagine people look more so at price than they look at where something is made. But we're seeing these lists circulating on social media that are giving people Canadian options they can buy versus American-made counterpoints, everything from milk, eggs, restaurant chains, clothing brands. Can this actually have an impact if people follow through on this?
Yeah, it really can. If enough consumers get behind this and start thinking about where they're spending the money and don't just focus strictly on price, they can have a huge impact on the sales and the profits of those particular products and firms. And that pain is going to get back to Washington, D.C. And hopefully that would change some of the policies that are being talked about right now.
Have we seen so-called boycotts actually work in the past? Where have we seen it be successful?
Where we've seen boycotts really be successful have been, unfortunately, most of the examples I've got are in the U.S., where products have been boycotted in either food or beverages. Take Bud Light, for example. There's your classic from just a couple years ago, where a lot of people decided, because of a stance Bud Light had taken or was perceived to have taken, that they were going to boycott the beer, and its sales dropped over 23% almost overnight because of it. And that's caused a variety of changes. One, Bud Light got away from that particular alleged policy they were thinking of. And two, it's resulted in Bud Light no longer being the #1 beer in the U.S.
So people can have an impact. So if this tariff comes in that Trump has promised, are there things the average person can do that will have an impact just them alone, or does it really need to be on a large scale?
Well, I think individually we've got power, but collectively is where the real power is going to come from. So it's if just one consumer or like 10 consumers tries to do something, that's not going to have a big impact. But if every consumer in the province of Manitoba decides that instead of Florida-based orange juice, they're going to only purchase Brazilian-based orange juice, that's going to have a major impact on the Florida grower industry. And that information will get back to elected officials.
So people do have purchasing power. As an economist, how could these potential tariffs really impact our economy here in Canada?
Well, unfortunately, if the tariffs come in as they're stated, it's going to be a major impact for the Canadian economy, and particularly provinces like Manitoba, which are very, very export dependent to the U.S. One of the things you're going to see is no doubt a slippage of the economy towards some sort of recession, because growth will be cut as one of our major markets is suddenly dropping the amount of purchases it's making from us. I think you're going to see the dollar will decline even more. And I'll be honest with you, the dollar's in pretty rough shape right now. If it goes any lower, that's going to have a material impact on Canada's ability to buy other things internationally. And also, for anybody who wants to make a travel trip to the U.S., that's going to have a major impact as well. You might see some inflationary pressures, but I'm thinking it's going to be much more in terms of just the slowdown in production, which will lead to higher unemployment.
All right, all things that we're going to be watching. Rob, thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome, Brittany.
Overcharging customers by selling underweighted meat. The latest on a CBC investigation. A recent CBC News story exposed the problem of big grocers overcharging customers by misweighing meat. As Sophia Harris tells us, some people want the grocers to be held accountable.
Okay, gonna weigh the chicken. A recent CBC News investigation uncovered Loblaw, Sobeys, and Walmart stores selling underweighted meat.
Okay.
Based on a tip from a shopper, CBC found more at this Sobeys-owned store. We bought 3 packs of ground beef. They appear to have been weighed with the packaging, which violates federal regulations. Calculated overcharge, 6%. In an email, Sobeys thanked CBC for bringing this to the grocer's attention and said it has reinforced its procedures and policies related to meat weighing.
They're not paying more attention to this stuff. This is their business.
In 2023, another shopper, Iris Griffin, complained to the Canadian Food Inspection Agency about underweighted beef bought at a Loblaw-owned superstore in Winnipeg. Turns out the error occurred at 80 locations. Griffin's unhappy the CFIA issued no penalties in that case, which is typical. So you have a copy of the proposed class action there? But Griffin is happy about a new proposed class action lawsuit. It alleges Loblaw, Sobeys, and Walmart misrepresented the weight of meat products and overcharged shoppers.
It gives people a sense that something is being done and that the retailer is being held accountable for the money that they've taken from consumers.
Sobeys and Loblaw didn't comment on the lawsuit. Walmart said a third party sold underweighted meat at this one store for 2 weeks this past December. But a customer at that store complained about the problem on social media back in October, 2 months earlier. Walmart says it's investigating.
It's the government's responsibility to verify compliance.
This consumer advocate says the CFIA needs to penalize grocers which break the rules.
It's beyond me that they don't take more enforcement, and heavier enforcement also sends a message.
How much would it cost them?
The federal NDP has sent a message to Canada's Competition Bureau, asking it to hold these giant corporations accountable. The CFIA says it issues fines when appropriate. And following CBC's investigation, the agency launched a new website about how to report and spot misweighed food. Sophia Harris, CBC News, Vancouver.
There's growing online backlash over Amazon's sudden decision to close all 7 of its facilities in Quebec. The hashtag Boycott Amazon is popping up on social media. But is the movement likely to gain any steam? Sharon Yonan-Renard reports.
Amazon's announcement that it's closing its facilities in Quebec has reignited a conversation online about boycotting the company. Some people are saying they plan to cancel their Prime or Amazon accounts. Others say they even plan to return their recent purchases. So if these people are serious, that means they could be turning to other online options or even buying in physical stores. But is that actually going to happen? Let's see what people have to say about that.
I think it'd be a good idea, but I don't think it's going to happen.
I personally already don't use Amazon that often. I prefer to support local businesses.
I'm a convenience kind of guy, but places I like to go to and I have a relationship with, I'll definitely go back to them.
This consumer behavior expert says company boycotts in Canada have gained momentum in the past. He points to the closure of the Kraft Heinz ketchup factory in Leamington, Ontario in 2014, which prompted a boycott movement against the product. He says the challenge with Amazon is that the competition doesn't quite measure up.
For Amazon, you don't have that many retailers that provide the same convenience, the same fast delivery, the same variety of products. This is one big inhibitor.
Still, the Canadian Federation of Independent Business hopes the Amazon closures build momentum around buying local.
We build a stronger economy if we are helping our small businesses. 60 cents are staying in the economy when you shop local, 8 cents with the online giants.
But will that be enough to convince people to opt for local over convenience? Experts aren't very optimistic, but they do say that a lot rides on whether or not Amazon will be able to provide the same quality of service in Quebec after the closures. Will people get their packages on time? Will the same amount of stock be available? And the company has said, yes, it will. And experts say that will ultimately be the decider for whether people click confirm order or sign out.
Riley's back in now, and Riley, lots of people around the city going to be very happy for these warmer temperatures. Yes. Chance to get outside this weekend, maybe skate down the River Trail.
I took next week off.
I know. It's a good week for that.
Yeah, I picked a really good week.
You did. People getting outside for a skate and getting those pups outside who've been waiting and waiting through that cold.
Or the cats.
Or the cats.
Because it is Feline Friday. Yeah, so we are looking at a clearing sky as we get into the morning hours tomorrow. So here's Holly. Thank you, Lynn, for sending this very cute picture. And you can send your cats and your dogs to talkback@cbc.ca, and I will look for them when I get back. We are looking at a temperature on -12 when we start out tomorrow morning. Watch for those northwesterly winds tomorrow because we are looking at a bit of a breeze as we get through the morning hours tomorrow. -12 first thing in the morning, -9 by the afternoon hours. We get some sun back by the afternoon to a mostly sunny sky even in some parts of the province, and clear by the evening, -11 in Winnipeg. A look at some of our daytime temperatures across the continent, looking at temperatures around freezing really right across the prairies. We're warmer than southern Ontario and Quebec at the moment, -7 today in Windsor, -5 in Toronto. And the southern states has really rebounded from some of those temperatures that we saw in the blizzard conditions earlier in the week. Atlanta getting to 11 degrees this afternoon. Overnight tonight, looking at temperatures dropping. Keep in mind some of these temperatures here, Gimli, Peguis, Winnipeg, -12, -13 degrees. These are closer to a daytime high for this time of the year. So relatively speaking, warm tonight, -15s into the west for Brandon and Verdun. Overnight, -21 in Thompson, -22 in Gillam. Tomorrow, looking at a clearing sky as we get through the afternoon for the most part for most of us across northern Manitoba. But you can see that snow starting to move in as we get later into the afternoon hours for places like Lynn Lake, Tadoule Lake, Churchill. Partly cloudy sky, -23 degrees, -19 in Gillam by the afternoon hours. Here's the rest, the remnants of some of that scattered flurry activity starting to make its way off into northwestern Ontario. Starting around -8 tomorrow in Kenora and Dryden, -10 in Winnipeg first thing in the morning. And where we have that clearing, still staying a bit on the cool side through Westman, -14 in Brandon by the afternoon. Staying around -14 in Brandon throughout the day, -12 in Emerson, -13 in Winnipeg. And we do get some of that sun back as we get through the rest of the day on Saturday. Into Sunday, temperatures are rebounding into the -single digits. A brighter day for most of us across the province, -3 in Dauphin, -5 in Brandon, and on the freezing mark, 0 with some snow in Thompson. All right, great weekend to do some skating. Let's take you to the Nestaway River Trail now. The warming huts are on display right now. CBC Manitoba community reporter Shannalee Vidal. Check them out.
I'm Shannalee Vidal, and I'm here at the Forks, where there's a unique way to escape the wind. For the 15th year, warming huts are on display, and this year there are 6 new ones to explore. 3 of these new huts were chosen out of 140 designs from around the world. One of them is Prairie Castle, inspired by colorful Scottish castles and Manitoba grain elevators. The Scottish designers made the hut easy to spot.
My part was to create the pattern and pick all the colours and make sure that they all work together and contrasted nicely so that they stand out in the snow and are seen from miles around.
We wanted the inside to be quite kind of a contrast from the kind of outside, which is quite busy and kind of colourful and bright and cheerful. So inside it's a nice dark blue, and we've got the stained glass effect that kind of should bring some nice hints of colour inside, but in a bit more of a relaxing kind of sheltered way.
Each year, the Forks invites a local artist to design a warming hut. This year, a roving gallery called Rosemary was chosen. Their hut is a birch bark basket rooted in nature, including some seasonal elements that will disappear when the snow does.
We've been working with local clay from the river here, and also, of course, with the snow. We've got one of our bricks for Rosemary School embedded within the basket itself.
Named Rosemary School, the hut is meant to be a gathering place for arts events before it melts away.
The forms that we see around is an amphitheater kind of space, so that's really handy for the programming that we're going to be hosting throughout the duration of being on the river.
Zach Peters with the Forks says the warming huts represent what the site strives for, bringing community together.
These huts are made by people, they're for people. They're for people to explore, enjoy, revel in, delight in. And I think that this year's huts, the 6 new ones, really encapsulate that.
The other new huts include Pom Pom, Prototype Home, The Present, and Wrong Turn. And many old favorites will also be back.
My kids come back every year and love seeing Huddy, which is that bright color face.
These warming huts will be around until the spring. Then they'll be put into storage and enjoyed again next year. For CBC Manitoba, I'm Shanna Lee-Vidal.
Age-old debate in the United Kingdom, why some people aren't happy with the price of this pie. Plus, Riley's back with a last check on our weekend forecast. Stay with us.
Well, get ready for an above-seasonal weekend across the province. We are looking at temperatures warming up, albeit not as warm tomorrow as it was today, but have a look at the numbers. So Winnipeg, we're at -9 tomorrow afternoon. Winds in the morning, northwest 30, gusting to 50. They will lighten up as we get through the afternoon a little bit more substantial lightning in the wind coming as we get into Sunday. -5, the forecast high. And then 0 and -1 for Monday and Tuesday. A good chance we could see some flurries, particularly through the early part of Tuesday. Clearing into Wednesday, -7, -6 on the way for Thursday, and -4 on the way for Friday. So above seasonal conditions lasting for the next week, even those overnight temperatures fairly warm for this time of the year. Well, it is a debate for the ages, Brittany, and it's heating up once again in the United Kingdom. Does pineapple belong on pizza?
It's a debate we had in the newsroom today. Well, one pizzeria in Norwich, England says it'll let you order a good old Hawaiian pizza for a price, but just wait till you hear how much it's going to set you back. That's tonight's Daily Lift.
We very much, I would say vehemently dislike pineapple on pizza. I mean, we feel like it doesn't suit pizza at all, and we're not really sure why it's a thing. We thought if people really, really want it, then they should stick their hands in their pockets and fork out 100 quid for it.
Whew, yep, you heard that right. They're charging an eye-watering £100 or about $177 Canadian for a Hawaiian pizza in a bid to put customers off of the topping. Now, the restaurant added the Hawaiian option to its account on a food delivery app, writing in the description, quote, "Yeah, for £100 you can have it. Order the champagne too. Go on, you monster." Customers, though, seem to have their minds made up.
Mate, I just think pineapple on pizza is wrong. That should not be done. And yeah, no, 100%, I wouldn't pay for that.
Because why would you put fruit on a savoury thing? It's just, it's not right.
I'm also actually Italian, from Naples, and we would never do that.
I mean, it's not awful. It would probably be like my second favourite under pepperoni.
So the owners say this all started as a joke. It's snowballed. So far, they have yet to sell one pizza with pineapple, but they are hoping at least someone orders one of them so they can use up the pineapple that they bought in a can.
$177.
I have to say, I'm a cheese pizza guy, so I'm probably disqualified from this.
I'm a no-go on the pineapple. We'll see you back here next week. Have a great weekend.